Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to share with you an issue I found with the S21 Ultra. It's a quite significant issue for all the reviewers and testers, and of course for all of you who are watching the review videos, because this issue could make many of the review test videos irrelevant and so-called inaccurate. As you can see here, this is an S21 Ultra with Exynos SoC. Right away we can see what is the issue. You see that I set the FPS cap to 30 here in the settings, but the Samsung game plugins shows a FPS of 45. Also from the software I used, the PerfDoc, it also shows a 45, 46, somewhere around that, about 15 FPS more than the actual FPS. Now let's change the FPS cap to 24 and see what happens. Okay, you see both the game plugins and the PerfDoc will show an FPS of 39, around 39 to 40, which is also about 15 FPS more than the real FPS. But it's quite clear to me that this is definitely not the experience of 40 FPS gameplay, because I can tell that it is very laggy, and it is indeed 24 FPS according to the game settings. Let's just try again to set it to 30 FPS, and you see the FPS we see is 45, 46 instead of 30. And of course, this is not a 45 FPS gaming experience. I can confirm that this should be somewhere around 30. Then of course, if we set the FPS to 60, we see it shows 60. That's because you add about 15 FPS to anything between 45 and 60. You get you top out at 60, right? And to be honest, I feel a little bit of macro stutters, and I think this shouldn't be 60. It's more like something from 50 to 60 with a little bit of frame drops and lags, but this shouldn't be a solid 60 FPS. I'll show you how to get the correct FPS. So I found this method from a lot of trial and errors. Here you go to developer settings, and you find this option called the GPU watch and enable it. GPU watch is actually a built-in FPS meter from the original Android system. Once you turn that on, the FPS from both the game plugins and the PerfDoc and also the GPU watch itself will all be correct, and they all match up. Let's try to set the FPS to 24 and see what happens. You see that everything goes to 24, which is very accurate.
Next on the agenda.
Then if we change it to 30, the game will actually show 30 as well. So everything is accurate now. Let's try 60 again. So we see that instead of showing a solid straight line 60 FPS, now it's more accurate at 50 to 60 with some minor fluctuations.
Next on the agenda.
Another interesting thing is that if you turn off the GPU watch now, the FPS will remain accurate. So it seems that enabling the GPU watch actually has some effect on the FPS reporting system in the OS, and it will force it to report the correct FPS. And after that, even if you turn it off, the effect remains. Okay, so now this is very interesting. And actually, I've experimented with a few other games. I have not seen this behavior in other games. So I'm actually not sure whether it's Samsung's fault or the Genshin Impact game's fault. But I've also tried the Genshin Impact game on other devices, and I don't see such behavior. So it seems it's likely that there is some incompatibility here. with the Genshin Impact and the latest Samsung device and Samsung OS, One UI 3.1 exactly. I did 2 rounds of tests on Genshin Impact on this device with exactly the same conditions. Of course, one with the accurate FPS and one with the inaccurate FPS. You see that the average power is almost the same. That means all the conditions are actually the same. But if the FPS is inaccurate, it's actually reporting an average 53 FPS. And when it's accurate, it's only 35. So this makes a huge difference. If it's 53 FPS, that means the Exynos 2100 is actually a wonderful SoC, right? It's very good performance. But at only 35, it's a very bad SoC. That's a yes or no difference, okay? And I don't want you to be influenced by any of these inaccurate results, and you think, oh, okay, I'd rather believe the better performing ones. I don't trust this golden retriever who's maybe bashing Samsung for money. And then you buy the Galaxy S21 Ultra with Exynos, and when you get it, you play the game, you feel, oh, why is it so laggy, right? That's exactly the thing I don't want to happen. And to be honest, I'm not sure whether this is a bug or it's an intentional behavior. Of course, I hope it's just a bug, and otherwise it will be a very shady thing for Samsung to do this, right? Now we know this, and I think you should remember that when you see the other game tests on this device with this game, when the FPS number is very, very beautiful at close to 60 FPS, you might take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that it's the reviewer's fault, because they might have no idea at all, right? So in my future tests, I'll make sure to turn on the GPU watch to reset the FPS meter to make it accurate, so that I won't show you any false information, okay? And of course, I'll keep an eye on this issue. Whenever Samsung issues an update or the Genshin Impact game is updated, I'll test it again and post any updates in my channel. Okay, so if you like my content, give me a subscribe and share my content with your friends and community. Thank you and see you next time.